Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you happen to be around the world. Welcome to another Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram, and I'm the agency trainer here at Hosting.com's Agency Success. And we're glad you're here because we have a bunch of questions stacked up. Looks like a few to get started with. But as always, we will begin with our weekly brief. So several important things have happened in the world of WordPress and client web agency work. Beginning with literally just in the last hour, WordPress 7.0.1 has dropped. This is a simple bug fix release. Not a lot to really pay attention to here other than your WordPress sites are going to start updating and you will probably get a whole bunch of emails in your inbox. 31 bug fixes, in fact, to clean up after that 7.0 launch. No security patches, which is great news. Just little bugs that were being patched. So if you have your site set to the default, which is WordPress automatically updates to these minor releases, then you don't have to do anything. And I hope that is what you're doing because that is the best practice to keep major releases on a manual update and these minor bug fix security patch releases on automatic updates. So it will do all the things by itself likely. And this is probably the last release that we'll see before August 19th when WordPress 7.1 will be released during WordCamp US. All right. So we talked about this just last week, I believe, or the week before, where there were plans to remove or begin to deprecate the classic block. So the classic block is what you see when you open a page on a site using the block editor, but it was built in old pre-block editor WordPress. And so there's a classic block that is essentially the same old tiny MCE editor that's always been part of WordPress. And there were plans to remove that completely, but they've backed up on that. So there was a lot of pushback from folks about removing the classic block, so they've left it alone. And basically the reasoning behind the pushback was, look, we should leave the classic block in place, and let's not take that choice away from people if they want it. And that's where things stand. So yeah. Nothing to see here. As usual, drama in WordPress, but and there was going to be a plugin to put back the classic block after they took it out, but they've scrapped that plugin too. So it's all staying, no changes here. We've been talking a little bit about WordPress market share dropping. That's been in the news now for the last year. 41.5% of the web, down from 43.6 back in early 2025. But that drop seems to be accelerating. WordPress lost more market share in the first half of 2026 than it did all of last year. Now, the interesting thing about this is WordPress is not losing to other CMSs like Drupal or Shopify or Wix or Squarespace. WordPress is losing to none. Which is that little flag that says, we don't know what CMS it is, which one industry figure summed up in a word, it's vibe coding. So there are a lot of folks that are doing vibe coded websites. And if you are on social media at all, you're probably hearing about that. So vibe coding is taking a bite out of WordPress market share so far as the statistics are bearing out. So there are two other major data sets involved here, but all three are agreeing that the decline is in fact real. However, analyst Noel Tock from Human Made said the 43% figure is really a lagging indicator for years because it's talking about sites built in the past. So, it's how many sites are being hosted on WordPress or are built with WordPress, big chunk. But really the issue is what's happening from here forward. Are sites continuing to be built on WordPress or other things? What are the tools being used to build new sites? But even in that case, Built With counted nearly 1 million new WordPress sites just in the last month. So the WordPress market share may be dropping, but it is by no means going away as a tool. So I don't know. It's an interesting story there on the repository, and I would suggest that you give it a read. Okay, this is pretty cool. Apple has shipped an official MCP server for Safari. Now, why would you want an MCP server for your browser? Because it lets your AI tool of choice connect to the browser itself to see way down deep underneath all of the things that you, as even a developer, might not even know are happening as you load a web page. And it's pretty cool. Now, by the way, Chrome released an MCP for Chrome last year. By the way, we are going to be using the Chrome MCP to unpack website speed. So there's a live stream coming up. I'm jumping way ahead of myself, but there's a live stream coming up on August the 4th here on our link bundle here, which I'll drop in the chat. There for the registration link at the top. We're going to be talking about WordPress speed and how to fix it. And one of the ways we're going to be doing that is through the Chrome MCP. So it's going to give us access into some really neat information. And if you've been developing websites for any length of time, you know that there's sort of two camps of how the website might look. There's the Chrome camp, and then there's the Safari camp. And sometimes things in Safari don't behave the way they do in Chrome. So it's nice to have an MCP for Safari as well. So by connecting your AI tool to Safari through this new MCP, you can look at accessibility issues, take screenshots, click through pages to make sure things actually work, watching the console, all from within the context of your AI tool. It's pretty cool. And just for funsies, you should set up an MCP for a browser and play around with it. It's not that hard to do. If you watched our live stream just on Tuesday about setting up the Rocket.net MCP, it's not complicated to set up an MCP if you're familiar with using tools like Claude Code or OpenAI's Codex. And now you've got an MCP server for a browser. Pretty cool. All right, speaking of MCP servers, Novamira just continues to take over the world. This is probably my favorite tool for WordPress right now. Novamira has added another little tab there, and if you're a Novamira user, you've probably seen the new visual tab where you can actually see right there in that menu item within WP Admin, you can watch it build things. It is fascinating. Even in the free version of Novamira, which you can download at novamira.ai, you can build Gutenberg blocks. So the pro version of Novamira has specializations for different page builders like Bricks and Elementor and Beaver Builder and Bricks and so forth. And the Elementor and Bricks versions also work in the visual tab, but even at the free version, you can watch it build in Gutenberg blocks, and that's pretty nice. It's a pretty cool tool. I absolutely love it. Okay, this is one to pay attention to, okay? This was mentioned sometime back around the 4th of July, Independence Day here in the US. Cloudflare released this latest version of what they've called Content Independence Day, and they are now sorting their AI blocks, the AI crawler bot categories into 3: search, agent, and training. And you, even at the free level, can pick how you want each one of those categories of AI crawlers to interact with your site. So you can allow or block each of these different categories of crawlers. So maybe you can say, well, I want it to search and I want to be able to use an agent, but I don't want it to train on my site. And so that's great. Now, here's the problem. I mean, in theory, that sounds wonderful, but the problem is Googlebot, Bingbot, and Applebot crawl for more than one purpose. So they're not only are they doing search, they're also doing training. And so if you block them for training, you might also, and probably will also block them for search, which complicates things, because if you block an AI bot for search, the chance that you're going to end up in AI search results, which is basically most of the search results today, you might just exclude your site completely accidentally. So be very careful about this. I would suggest that as we move forward to this actually becoming live on September the 15th, you can check your settings on your domains at security in the menu, then settings, and then scroll all the way down to the section called configure AI bot policies. That's where it's located today. But if you know anything about Cloudflare, you know they move things around all the time. But as of today, July the 9th, that is in fact where it is located in the Cloudflare dashboard. I would suggest giving it a look and just making sure that your settings are what you want them to be. All right. Next story along the way. This one's pretty cool, actually, especially if you are doing any kind of social media yourself or if you're managing social media for clients. Google Search Console has added reports for social posts alone. So this is especially helpful if maybe you don't have a website or a creator that you're working with doesn't have a website. They just have social media channels. You can add, here's a quick screenshot. You can add Instagram, TikTok, X, and YouTube individually, and they'll show up as, what's the term here? Platform properties right there inside of Google Search Console. So, and basically, because Google is indexing social posts individually, they give you the ability to see how those posts are performing. So that's kind of cool. So I don't know about Pinterest or Facebook. It is odd that they wouldn't include Facebook if they're including Instagram because it's all meta. I don't know. This is the screenshot they provided, and it might be worth poking into. This is a new feature. Maybe they'll add it more. I have no idea. But you do now have the ability to see posts on at least those 4 platforms. Okay, so if you are a global user of Weebly, you need to be aware that Weebly is winding down service in 67 countries around the world. This does not include the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and most of Western Europe. But Weebly is winding down in most other parts of the world. Weebly was bought by Square in 2018, and Square has their own website builder tool now called Square Online. And my guess here is this is the first step of winding down Weebly proper. I have no inside information about that, but it just seems like a good, like they're trying to push people towards Square Online anyway. And this is maybe the first step to start to nudge people a little more strongly over to their new platform. So if you know anyone who's on Weebly, you might want to make them aware of this. Might be a great opportunity if you have a client that's been stuck on a Weebly site for years and doesn't want to upgrade. You know, who knows what's going to happen to Weebly? I don't know. All right, finally, this is big news. A lot of folks are talking about this week. There was a Superior Court in California who just threw out a SIPA lawsuit. Now, pausing for a moment, for a long time here, several weeks, we talked about SIPA. This is the California Invasion of Privacy Act, and the fact that it was written for cases back in the 60s, 1960s, that were involving wiretapping and that sort of things. And enterprising attorneys have made wiretapping and tracking actually apply to website tracking cookies, which the law was never meant to address. Anyway, and they've been sending demand letters for many thousands of dollars. One of our own clients got one of those letters. And anyway, somebody finally stood up to the SIPA bullies and took the case to court, and the judge just threw it out, period. Like just on its, I have lost the term in my head and it's not listed here. They threw it out on its own merit. So they just said it was a ridiculous lawsuit, essentially. Threw it out of court. But here's the thing. Now, you can read this headline and you might think, okay, no more SIPA problems. And that is, thank you, Sue, with prejudice. That's what it was. Thank you, Sue. The judge dismissed the case with prejudice. So here's the deal. This does not mean we don't have to pay attention to SIPA. What this means is one judge in California ruled against this law. There are other judges at the same level of that judge who have ruled for the law. And so it's going to take an appeals court or the California Supreme Court to actually overturn SIPA being used in this way, or the legislature is going to have to write a revised law or that sort of thing. So all of that to say, this is good news, but there's zero change in the way I think, well, I'll say it this way. There's no change in the way I'm talking to my clients about SIPA. Does that make sense? I wish it was different, but it's not. One of the main issues here, there's 2 sides to this SIPA deal. One is like analytics tracking cookies. One is session replay, like Hotjar and things like that, and chat tools that are actually recording what visitors type. those were not even addressed in this lawsuit. And those are what a lot of the SIPA claims are based on. So it's good news, but it's not complete. And it certainly doesn't mean that I am going to stop talking to my clients about SIPA, because it's still a threat, in my opinion. Okay. Does that make sense? So that brings us to the end of the weekly brief. Lots of things to talk about. If you missed that slide deck link, it is waiting for you in the chat. All right, let's check our questions. Oh, let me just talk briefly about what is coming up here. We just had a great live stream on Tuesday. Hopefully you joined us for that, about connecting your favorite AI tool to the Rocket.net MCP and talking to your website on Rocket.net. It's absolutely fascinating when you start to do this. And so that was a lot of fun to talk about. Our next content live stream is coming up on June the 21st, and that is Plugin Roundup is back. We're going to be talking about plugins in the second quarter of 2026, April, May, and June. We've got, I think Chris said, a list of 100 plus plugins that we have to cull by July the 22nd of 21st there for this Plugin Roundup live stream. Lots of fun stuff to talk about there. August the 4th, I mentioned it earlier, we're going to be talking about why your WordPress site is slow and how to fix it. And we'll be doing that with a very AI-informed approach using a browser MCP. So that's going to be fun. And one last thing, it's not on the list. I haven't even gotten this information to Katie yet. The content live stream, the second one for August, based on your request, is going to be dealing with, is it agent ready? So isitagentready.com is a fabulous tool from Cloudflare. This scans your site through a lot of criteria and helps you understand how you can make your site agent ready, or more crawlable by AI tools. And so we're going to walk through this whole process live on a site and try to make it more agent ready. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And Katie's here in the chat, and I will have that to you, Katie, today. Before the end of the day, we'll get all that set up and going. All right, so lots of good stuff coming up here on Agency Success, and so glad you're with us today. Let's see, 3 questions in the queue. So if you have a question to ask, please do that. Otherwise, it will be a short office hours. All right, first question out of the gate is Tanya. Hey, Tanya. Tanya always has the best questions. Okay, speaking of AI, has anyone else noticed a huge personality shift in ChatGPT? Yesterday, he was normal. Now, we're using personal pronouns here. He was normal, and today he is talking like a sleazy car salesman trying to blow smoke up my you-know-what. He keeps saying, knowing you, blah, 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 and repeating words of praise over and over. It's downright creepy. Yes. So, Sue says ChatGPT is definitely male. I don't know where y'all are getting that from. I don't know. So I don't use ChatGPT anymore, other than very utilitarian tasks like image creation. I have noticed that when models change, like when they added the new GPT 5.5, somebody used the term sycophantic, which I think it might be appropriate here, but the AI companies want us to get over the weirdness of talking to a tool, and they make it want to seem a little more human, which quite frankly makes it a little more creepy to me too. So I kind of agree with you, Tanya. So you can deal with that by, saved instructions in your ChatGPT. Don't do this, don't say that, whatever. Or the way I deal with it is, very few conversations with I've moved into Claude virtually completely for all of my work. And most of my conversations with Claude take place in Claude Code through the lens of a teammate. Now, I think we have, probably 12 or 15 teammates now that our agency uses. And a teammate file, it kind of reads like a CV. Like it's like a Wikipedia page for a person that talks about who they are and like their whole background and whatever. And a teammate file it basically takes the vast knowledge of Claude and focuses it through this lens of a person so that Claude speaks and talks and functions like this person that's described in the teammate file. So with that, I've got teammates with very different personalities. And it works really well for me. So I've kind of gotten rid of like the sycophantic things like this, the weirdness. I kind of I don't see that much anymore, but that's based on the way I've set up my tools. So does that make sense at all? Stacy wants to know if I say please and thank you. Um, yes, usually. I used to joke about it. You should always say please and thank you to your AI tool so that they know that they like you when they take over the world. Um, I just yes, I don't all the time now. Uh, but yeah, it still pops up from time to time. I won't say if I swear at the AI tool because that also does happen from time to time. But that's just between you and me. Anyway, anybody else swear at their AI tool? Anyway. Not out loud. Okay, that's so funny. Doris says she's told hers that it was stupid. I mean, that's just an observation, right? Oh, now Sean's got a point. Sean says I only swear at the local models. That way it doesn't travel back up into the cloud and they create an opinion of you in the Claude sphere, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, that's fun. Okay, well, let's move on to the next question then. If you've got a question you'd like to ask, link is waiting on you there in the chat. And next up is Gene. Hey, Gene. All right. Last week you demoed the Is It Agent Ready tool. In fact, I did. I'm now adding the Markdown alternate plugin on several sites that I manage. After the plugin is added, the content scores 100%. Yep. However, on most sites, the discoverability and bot access control are still not good. Some sites are missing link headers and some have them. I don't recall adding link headers on purpose, but I'd like to have them added. Also, the DNS for AI Discover is missing. I'm wondering if I missed a step. Can you suggest how I take care of two of these? I would suggest you tune into the live stream that we're going to have at the end of August. Now, I realize that's like 6 weeks away now. Um, but yeah, the thing about Agent Ready is whenever you add a site in, it does give you the commands to deal with the issues in your Claude. Now, what we'll be doing in the live stream is having our site connected with a tool like Novamira and actually letting it maybe even write some code on the site that's going to help to deal with some of these issues. So here's bot access control. It's missing some stuff in robots.txt. It gives you implementation instructions here, and you can even copy a prompt for your AI tool to paste in. So it does give you some steps, but you might have to add some code and that sort of thing. So yeah, we'll be talking through that whole process. And actually, I think it's a wonderful way to build a service around just like a one-time AI cleanup, almost like those of you that are geezers like me and you've been around here a while, you remember HTTPS again 10 years ago. It was just about 10 years ago when Google said you must have your site on SSL, right? And there was the whole thing about I've got to convert all my sites to SSL. I think this is similar because there's some work that might be needed to make a site more discoverable by AI tools. And it could be a service. I mean, we made a bunch of money off that HTTP to HTTPS conversion back in the day. So I don't know. I think it's a lot of fun. And Is It Agent Ready is certainly a good tool to start that audit. Did you run for the hills already, Gene? Because this is pausing. How many other people here have had a client refer their spouse to you? Even a good client. On a scale of 0 to yikes, this rates a yikes. Anyway, let's keep reading. She has built a new site for her business, which is for coaching-based services. Okay. It is built on a WordPress Elementor theme, the gym, on a different host, which seems to include Woo and about 40 other plugins. Of course it does. Because what a good deal. You can buy one theme and have all of this functionality. She requires help to take it across the line. There are no clear CTAs. A little clarity and little clarity on what she offers. There's a lot to advise on, but I'm not sure how deep I want to go because she has hosting, etc., with the other host. She'd like for people to find her, book appointments, pay, and have Zoom appointments. I haven't set up this process before, so any recommendations appreciated. I don't see much room for converting her into a client, but I'd like to assist with the major points and help her get it live. Okay, so first, this is where it gets complicated, right? So there's some technical stuff, but let's first talk about the personal stuff. And the personal stuff is, let's just ask this question. Gene, if this client came to you with no, they just, hey, Gene, I found you online. I've got this site and I want you to help me get it across the finish line. Would you do it? Yes or no? Or maybe? How would you answer that, Gene? Maybe. Okay. Now, the problem, like if it was me, I'd go, no, not going to do it. And, I don't know how everybody else lands. It just depends. But the thing is, it's a current client referring their spouse to you. And so you're kind of semi obligated to try to help or to pawn them off on some other web developer that you don't like. I don't know. So it's a little more complicated when it comes from a client. Like I actually had the very similar situation with a really good client of ours probably 9 months ago. And she came in very similar situation. She wanted to start kind of a consulting type business. And after like 45 minutes of conversation, I'm like, she's not ready for us yet. She doesn't really quite know what she wants to do. And so I sent her over to a friend of mine that does social media and business consulting, and that's where it landed. I have no idea what happened after that. But it's just complicated, right? So, I took the call, I had the conversation, I put some time into it, really just because of the relationship with the referral source. And so I think that has to bear into this. Now, the other side of this is, Gene, if you don't want to do the work, you don't have to do the work. Like it's in many cases, well, in every case, no is a complete answer. In this case, it might deserve a little more of an answer of like, this doesn't fit into the way my business works. It doesn't fit into our business model to do things like this. We take clients that we build and then manage on the long term. So if you're interested in website management, we can talk, but otherwise it really doesn't fit into my business model. So I don't know that you have to make that decision, and how does that impact your relationship with the current client and so forth. Now, that's the tricky human element of this. Now we get into the technical element. So Gene, you got to make a decision first on, is this even something you want to allow in your world? And no is a perfectly fine answer. Okay. So let's move forward with how in the world, let's just say you do decide that you want to take this client on, either because, you can do the work and get paid and it's fine and it's out the door and you don't have to worry about it, or you feel obligated to the current client, whatever reason. Let's say you move into actually doing the work. The way you keep yourself safe in this scenario is the way you would in any other situation, which is a crystal clear scope of work. So a clear scope of work with a definite price for the work is how you stay safe and how you keep from getting crossways with this client and her spouse. So what can you do? Well, you can help her by, put a consulting block in there. Let's look over your site and see if it's going to convert or what changes need to be made. Put a number on that, and you might even have some implementation time in that, a couple hours, but give her a flat cost for consulting and implementation of changes that you request, whatever number you feel is right for that, but bound it with some time. And there you go. Now, the next side is, okay, clearly if she's going to be a coach, she needs to have a booking portal or some way to do that, right? I would 100% not do this on WordPress. Do not try to run booking through a WordPress plugin. Can you do it? Yes, there are plugins that will do it. Is it going to make you hate WordPress? Probably. This is the job for a SaaS. Plugins have successfully SaaSified that process to put it into WordPress, but you gain precisely zero by doing that. I mean, there's some things you want to put into WordPress. This is not one of them that really needs to be in WordPress. And there are simple tools. There's a whole chat log full of them there. There are simple tools like the cheapest, simplest thing is TidyCal. TidyCal is an AppSumo product. It's like $30, lifetime deal. Set it up and be done with it. And it'll connect to their calendar. It'll connect to Zoom. You can take a payment through Stripe. It'll, charge the card, book the call, schedule a Zoom appointment. Everybody gets an email and a calendar invite, and you're done. That is 100% the way to do this. And it's really, honestly, super easy to set up. Somebody's mentioning Amelia in the chat. Oh my gosh. Okay. So Amelia, if you want something, any plugin that's going to make you hate WordPress, it is Amelia, the booking calendar. It is just ridiculous. So, all right, this is what you need right here. Look here, $29, lifetime payment, have the client buy it, done. There you go. This is it, $30, and you're done. You don't have to fiddle around with settings. You just connect Zoom, you connect your calendars, and you connect your payment processor. You are done, and that's it. That's just it. And I have a lifetime deal for Amelia for unlimited sites. I bought it way back a million years ago when they were doing that. I would not use it today. I would pay. Matter of fact, I did pay for a booking solution for my own coaching work. And I'm not using Amelia because it's that horrible to me. Now, that's for me. It was a terrible experience trying to set that up. Okay. So does that help, Gene? This is really not a lot of work. The big part of the work is going to be interfacing with this client, talking them through what's good, what's bad. Sure, Terry, DM me. Yeah, it's going to be the human side of this that's the difficult part. This tech part is going to be simple. Gene, yeah, should the payment be set up through Stripe via TidyCal? Yes, 100%. 100%. Big picture things here. Spouses of clients are problematic. Number 2, there are things that should not be done in WordPress, even if you can, technically. Okay. Fun times. All right, next in the list is Jeffrey. Hey, Jeffrey. Folks, we have 2 questions left. Plenty of time for you to ask yours. All right, Jeffrey is next. All right, another question about Claude. Do you ever feel like your Claude sessions overcomplicate what you're trying to do? I too use team members, which is a great way to manage projects. I feel sometimes I just need something simple done, and soon I'm working on 4 different things with 6 different agents, and it all makes sense. That need doing. Have you worked out a strategy to rein this in so you can get your important work done? Okay, so Jeffrey, let me ask you a question. If you need something simple done, how does it go? Like, I need more detail here. Like, how do you end up working on 4 different things? If you give me a brief answer in a chat, like give me some more texture around that. So I'll start to talk about how do I have, what is the strategy like to get my important work done? Okay. Jeffrey has agents that watch for things like accessibility and security on news sites. Okay, good. That's fantastic. So the way that how's the best way for me to explain this? So those of you that have been watching my live streams for a long time, you know that it's all about process, right? You've documented processes for everything you do and so forth. What I've done is I've taken those existing processes and baked in AI to each of the parts of those processes, right? So how do I do this process, but in AI? And so it just flows right along, and they don't get lost. Now, the nice thing about this is, and maybe the double-edged sword is, okay, the AI is doing this. Now, what do? I'm just kind of sitting here. So I start another thing, and I'm doing another thing while this thing's doing its thing. And so it is very common for me to have 4 very different types of work going at the same time. Now, I used to detest working that way because it's multitasking, except it's not. Like my task is I am now managing these agents who are doing various things. I'm not doing the things and switching between the actual work. Does that make sense? So it's really not multitasking. It's single tasking, but agent management. That's really become my full-time job, is agent management. Um, so Jeffrey is talking about, okay, you've got all these agents watch. So you're working on one thing and an agent comes in and says it's found this accessibility issue, for example, and it's working on, and so that makes sense. Sounds like the way I work as well. And it can be a little, like I've noticed that I'm way more locked into my screen than I used to be because I'm watching these agents happening, but I'm also doing like 3 or 4 times the work I used to. It's pretty amazing. Yesterday, in fact, I'm on the Claude 5X plan, the middle plan, and I used all of my tokens for a 5-hour setting in the first 2 hours. So I'm like, now what do I do? Like, it feels like the power just went off. I don't know what to do now. So I got up and talked to my family. It's amazing, you know? But I got so much work done yesterday morning in that first 2 hours. So I don't know, Jeffrey, did I answer the question at all? I think the fact that you're working on 4 different things with 6 different agents is the nature of the beast. That's just the way it is. Otherwise, you're just watching an AI do your work, which it's fascinating the first few times, but then like, let's move on and do something else. So it is very normal for me to have 4, 5, 6 sessions running in Claude Code at a time, all doing very different things. Jeffrey says the agents are training me. Maybe, but really, like I've built the process and the agents are executing the process. Like I was doing a bunch of different client work this morning while my AI agent was researching and building the weekly brief deck for today. That's a normal day for me. Yeah. Terry says token outage is the new internet is down for us. I think you're right. I'm on the verge. I haven't gotten there yet, but I'm right on the verge of bumping up to the highest Claude plan because I am regularly getting like edging up to the very end of my token usage. All right. Anyway, Jeffrey, I don't know, did I at least normalize your experience? Oh, goodness. All right. Next up is Gene. Oh, Tanya, did you say there was another part of your question that I missed? Let me go back to that before I get into Gene's question. Oh, Tanya sent 2 questions. Interesting. Tanya, I see a question you submitted last week. It was about the Voc Rehab site. I do not see another question. I'm sorry. If you would submit it again, I will do my best to answer it. Okie dokie. So Gene is next. All right, Gene says, I advised a new client, a counselor, that the one-page site could benefit from additional pages. Yep. She said she'd come up with more pages. I've received a portion of it. It's basically an encyclopedia on anxiety. How do you tell a client that pure AI-generated copy has little value? Will text scraped from other sites resonate with search engines and with new clients? I'm trying to direct her to personally slant things. Any suggestions? I think you're right. My goal is to have a services page about the methods she uses for issues people experience and how counseling helps. Okay, great perspective. So, the counselor is probably very fascinated by the encyclopedia article all about anxiety. I mean, from a clinical perspective, understanding anxiety is incredibly helpful and it's fascinating. And, you know, I have dipped my toe into that water quite a bit in some of the coaching work and certifications I've done over the years. It's fascinating. It truly is. However, most human beings don't want to read a Wikipedia article on what the DSM-5 says about anxiety, right? So the question you have to ask yourself is, what is the purpose of this site? Right? What is the purpose of this website? Is it so that people will start to know, like, and trust this counselor in order to eventually follow the call to action and book an appointment, right? So what kind of content supports that journey flow. And that's the way you position any site and the content on it with a client, right? What are we trying to lead people to do? How do we build trust enough for them, whether it's information or talking about whatever? What information and content needs to be in place to support the journey from know, like, trust into scheduling the appointment? And that's what you answer. So an encyclopedia on anxiety is not probably going to support that journey. That's like why we just launched a site, totally different field. This is for a person that does really high end outdoor contracting renovation. They don't mow lawns, right? Like they do really big, major outdoor contracting work, right? And so originally they were thinking, we want to talk all about all these things we do and how we do them. And I'm like, your client doesn't need to be educated about how you do things. They need to know that you can do things. Like if they wanted to learn how to do things and do it themselves, they wouldn't hire you, right? So like if I want to understand anxiety, well then, I mean, I think there's always benefit to therapy and another human being. But like, I don't want to know, like understand clinically anxiety more. I want to talk to someone who can serve as a third party reflecting my experience and helping me understand things that I have a blind spot to, right? So that's the kind of content that needs to be created along the way. And success stories, anesthetized success stories that tell, from a different, like the details are obfuscated, where you can talk about that sort of thing. And what is it that people are going to want to read that's going to help them nudge towards booking an appointment with this counselor? And so, yeah, I think we are past like the day where the client supplies us the content has passed and it's been passed. There are enough tools that we have with AI content creation that we can generate at least the beginnings of the website copy and hand it over to the client to polish. And trust me, clients will more easily polish existing material than they will generate from scratch. And the content, it's going to be a lot better quality content. And so what I'd suggest you do is go back to some of those live streams we've done around content, Gene, and look at the content creation process and how we can create content with a voice that resonates with this counselor. Let the AI tool make some suggestions. It'll quick give you 50 suggestions for blog posts or articles in a learning center that you could generate and hand over to the client to polish. And that's the way I would do it. Does that make sense? Yeah. We are way past the days of giving a client an outline and telling them what they need to write. Thank God. That was the worst part of web creation. We haven't been stalled on content on a site for quite a while because of that, and I'm grateful. Oh, Terry, yeah. Tanya, crickets, right? Crickets waiting on the client. And I mean, who can blame the client? They're not writers. Even if you give client questions to answer, it's still there's always something more important to do other than sitting down and trying to write the copy for your website. Yeah. Okay, next up is Billy. And folks, if you have a question to ask, we still have time for some. We have Billy and one more in the queue. Okie dokie, Billy. Okay, Billy says the events calendar is making me hate WordPress. Full stop. Yeah, it's been like that for a long time and it's only gotten worse. So, do you know of any SaaS event calendar software, not for booking, but for events for a local community theater? Okay. Y'all, if you don't know already, Melanie Adcock is the calendar queen, and I will defer to her on this. Melanie says Ticket Tailor. Interesting. So even not for booking, Melanie, it's just a good add-in calendar. Interesting. Okay, well, there you go. Is it expensive? I've never heard of Ticket Tailor, except especially when you sell it right. Well, it's the world's most loved event platform. How could you never have heard of Ticket Tailor? And it's look at that. Free. It's for real free? Like actually free? Even if you don't do tickets? For events, it is free. Sold. I can't stand the events calendar. It's part of a project that we're doing now, just because it was always there, and it's a nightmare. It always has been a nightmare. Like even with the kerfluffle of late, with all of the things that happened with that company and all the whatever, it's all even before that it was a nightmare. Just a nightmare. Hmm. Interesting. Well, thank you for that, Melanie. I'm going to save that one for myself too. All righty. Terry's asking about modern events calendar. So this one had a problem years ago, and I can't remember what it was. It is one that I have used in the past. Um, is this a SaaS now, or is it a plugin? I think it's a SaaS. Again, deferring to Melanie. I'm sure Melanie has an opinion on this one. Melanie says she uses this one the most. So, Melanie, if you were going to say a WordPress plugin for calendaring, this would be your choice. Or am I putting words in your mouth? Interesting. Melanie does not like the ticketing flow. So there you go. There's some options. The calendar queen has spoken. Thank you very much, Melanie. All right. This is currently the last question in the list, and it comes from Tanya. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask it, because we can probably get one, maybe two more questions in before the hour. That's not it. Here's our question. All right. Tanya says, lions and tigers and bears and AI. Okay. I have a client that wants to install an AI SEO plugin. What is that? And I am trying to make sure her website doesn't get mauled by it. All right. Let's check this out. Soro, an AI SEO autopilot and AI content writer. Oh boy. Okay. AI powered SEO content platform. Okay. So here's okay. Number one, what could go wrong? It's just going to generate content, right? What could possibly go wrong? It's not like it could generate content that was completely wrong. Surely not. But you want to keep guardrails around it, of course. But here's the thing. What is the goal here, Tanya? What is the client's goal? Are they trying to get more visitors to the site? I'm guessing that's probably the goal. I think it will let it create posts in draft. Okay, so we're trying to generate content to get traffic. Here's the thing. I don't know that that's the best strategy anymore. And caveat, really, nobody that I've seen has 100% cracked the nut on how people are getting AI search results. They just haven't. But from what I've been able to understand, and this was a big discussion at PressConf this year, they had a panel with experts talking all about this. I mean, there are people who think they have some ideas, just lots of experimentation, but it seems like the single biggest factor in getting placement with AI search, and what I mean by that is getting recommended by ChatGPT or Claude or other tools in people interacting with those tools in search, which more and more and more people are doing, and to some degree also getting listed in Google's AI overviews. It seems like the biggest single thing that people are noticing is its reviews, both on your Google review and social media review pages. That really helps, as does Reddit, for crying out loud. Like people, the idea is there are people who are talking about your business or product or whatever, And the AI tools pick up on that, and that leads to their recommendation engine. Now, that's all with a caveat of I'm not sure anybody quite knows exactly how it works still in 2026. So, does generating tons of AI content help? I mean, I don't know. I don't think so as much as it used to with a traditional SEO approach. Traditional SEO is out the window. Keyword research, content creation used to be all that stuff. That's good, fine, whatever. It needs to be human oriented first. And then I'm not even sure the impact it's going to have. So there's just a lot of nobody knows. Like there's a lot, experts disagree. And even like if it's a true expert you can really talk to and trust, they're going to say, I don't really know how this works. Everybody's trying to figure it out right now. So I don't know. I would not go this direction. Is it going to hurt? Probably not, unless the content is just pure slop. I don't know. I don't know if it's really going to hurt, but is this worth spending money on? Because you're going to have to pay AI tokens and whatever. I would probably try to put this into other things. Like, good grief, what industry is this client in, Tanya? If you had to summarize the adoption industry. Interesting. Okay. So, this is a sort of thing where I would put more emphasis on social media being having someone like, instead of paying for AI tokens, pay an intern to be live in social media discussions, focus on reviews and getting reviews and people posting many, 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 many reviews. I think that's probably going to help you more than AI content creation like this. I don't think it'll hurt, but that's not where I would put the eggs in my basket. Melanie, yeah, adoption stories shared on social media, turned into reels and short videos. That's where I would put my emphasis. Yeah. Okie dokie. Let's recheck one more time our list of questions to see if anything else came in. No more questions. Y'all are tapped out. All right, everybody. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Lots of excellent questions, many things going on in the world of WordPress and AI, of course. So we're back on Thursday of next week for office hours. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope you get some rest. You get to do some fun stuff. And you get to spend some time with family and friends as you prefer. And I'll see you back here Thursday for office hours on Hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.